Humanity's enemies perished in fiery oblivion when our hibernating star fleets awoke from their 1,000-year slumber, unleashing weaponry that ripped the fabric of space and time itself. Admiral Gary King gritted his teeth as the urgent distress signal from the Arcturians blared on the bridge of the UES Vindicator. He clenched his fists, his battle-hardened instincts kicking into overdrive. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the scowling face of Arcturian High Commander Novak. "This doesn't concern you, human. We can handle it," Novak spat, his multiple eyes narrowing. "Just stay out of our way." King leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. "I'm not about to abandon our allies when they need us most. The United Earth Defense Fleet is coming, whether you like it or not." He cut the transmission, then turned to his crew. "Initiate jump to the Arcturus system, now." As the mighty engines of the human warships roared to life, King couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than met the eye. Novak's arrogance, his insistence on handling the situation alone. Something didn't add up. But there was no time to dwell on it. Lives were at stake, and if the UEDF didn't act fast, the Arcturians could be wiped out entirely. And without their advanced technology and strategic position in the galaxy, humanity would be left vulnerable to the unknown threat lurking in the shadows. The fate of both races hung in the balance as the human fleet hurtled through the void, racing against time to unravel the mystery and save their allies from annihilation. Failure was not an option, for if the Arcturians fell, humanity would surely be next. The UEDF ships tore through hyperspace, bursting back into real space at the Arcturus system's edge. Admiral King tensed as warning sirens blared through the Vindicator's bridge. The view screen lit up, revealing a vast armada of sleek, menacing ships, their hulls black as the void and pulsing with malevolent red energy. "They outnumber us 3-1, the tactical officer reported, his face grim. King's fingers dug into the armrests of his command chair. He had faced impossible odds before, but never like this, yet he refused to back down. "Form a defensive perimeter around Arcturus Prime," he commanded. "We hold the line no matter the cost." The human ships moved into position, their shields flaring to life as they braced for the onslaught. The enemy fleet surged forward, a colossal dreadnought at its heart, its weapons already charging with sinister red light. Energy beams and missiles slammed into the UEDF ships, the impact shaking the Vindicator to its core. King gritted his teeth, his mind racing as he coordinated the defense. "Point defense systems, target those missiles. Railguns and laser batteries, return fire." The Vindicator's weapons roared to life, filling the void with streaks of blue and green. Explosions bloomed across the enemy fleet, but for every ship destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. As the battle raged, King's eyes narrowed as he noticed the AHS Imperator breaking formation, turning its back on the fight and accelerating towards the system's outer reaches. "Novak, what the hell are you doing?" King growled into the comm, but received only silence in response. Suspicion gnawed at his gut. This wasn't right. Novak was many things, but a coward wasn't one of them. "Captain Harrison," King barked, opening a channel to the Vindicator's marine contingent. "Take your squad and board the Imperator. Find out what Novak's up to and bring him in." "Yes, sir," Harrison replied, his voice steady despite the chaos erupting around them. The Marine's boarding craft launched from the Vindicator's hangar bay, weaving through the battle, its hull scorched by near misses. It latched onto the Imperator's airlock, and Harrison's squad stormed the Arcturian ship, weapons at the ready. They fought their way to the bridge, the corridors ringing with the clash of weapons fire and the screams of the dying. As they burst onto the command deck, Harrison's blood ran cold at the sight before him. Novak stood at the center of the bridge, a triumphant sneer on his face as he faced down the Marines. Behind him, the view screen displayed the sigil of the enemy fleet, pulsing with that same sickening red light. "You're too late, human," Novak spat. "I've made a deal with the true power in this galaxy. The Arcturians and the UEDF will fall, and I will rule over the ashes." Harrison's grip tightened on his weapon, his finger hovering over the trigger. "You traitorous bastard, you'll pay for this." But as the Marines advanced, Novak's sneer only widened. His hand slammed down on a hidden control panel, and a cold, robotic voice echoed through the bridge. Self-destruct sequence initiated. Detonation in T-minus 60 seconds. Harrison's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed with grim determination. There was no time to waste. "Fall back to the boarding craft now," he roared, even as Novak's laughter filled the air. The Marines raced through the corridors, their boots pounding against the deck plates as the countdown ticked away in their ears. They barely made it back to their ship, sealing the airlock and disengaging just as the Imperator exploded in a blinding flash of light. The shockwave slammed into the enemy fleet, sending ships tumbling and breaking their formation. For a moment, the tide of battle seemed to turn in the UEDF's favor. But as the light faded and the debris cleared, King knew that this was only the beginning. Novak's treachery had been exposed, but the enemy's true power still remained. And with the Arcturians weakened and divided, the fate of the galaxy now rested on the shoulders of the UEDF. The battle for Arcturus Prime raged on, the fate of two races hanging in the balance, as the stars themselves bore witness to the carnage. King's eyes blazed with determination as he stared out at the enemy fleet, his resolve hardening into an unbreakable will. He would not let this be the end, not for the Arcturians and not for humanity. In the chaos of the battle, King's eyes locked onto the enemy dreadnought, its hull pulsing with malevolent energy. With Novak's treachery exposed and his flagship reduced to smoldering debris, the enemy fleet wavered, their formations crumbling under the relentless onslaught of the UEDF ships. "All ships concentrate fire on that dreadnought," King roared, his voice cutting through the cacophony of explosions and alarms. "We take that behemoth down, and we end this here and now." The Vindicator surged forward, its engines flaring white-hot as it tore through the void. The mighty warship shuddered as it absorbed hit after hit, its shields flaring and crackling under the strain. As the Vindicator closed in on the dreadnought, the Arcturian fleet rallied behind them, their sleek ships darting through the battle like silver arrows. At their head was the AHS Retribution, Admiral Zora's flagship, its advanced energy weapons lancing out to carve great gashes in the enemy's armor. "Admiral King, we stand with you." Zora's voice crackled over the comm, her tone steely and determined. "Let us show these invaders the true might of our alliance." King nodded, a fierce grin spreading across his face. "Glad to have you with us, Admiral. Now let's finish this." But even as the tide of battle turned in their favor, King knew that victory would not come easily. The enemy dreadnought loomed before them, a behemoth of black metal and pulsing red energy, its weapons already turning to face the approaching UEDF and Arcturian ships. "Commander Riggs, Lieutenant Hawkins with me," King barked, rising from his command chair. "We're going to board that dreadnought and take out its command center. It's the only way to end this once and for all." Riggs and Hawkins snapped to attention, their faces set with grim determination. They knew the risks, but they also knew what was at stake. The fate of both their races hung in the balance, and failure was not an option. As the strike team prepared to embark, the Vindicator's sensors suddenly lit up with a new contact. A strange energy signature, unlike anything they had seen before, emanated from a nearby asteroid field. King's brow furrowed as he studied the readings, his mind racing with possibilities. Could this be the key to the enemy's advanced technology? The source of their power? He turned to Riggs, his eyes blazing with intensity. "Commander, take a squad and investigate that energy signature. If there's something there that can help us win this fight, we need to know about it." Riggs nodded, already gathering her team of scientists and engineers. "We'll find out what it is, Admiral. You can count on us." As Riggs and her squad departed in a swift shuttle, King turned to Hawkins and the rest of the strike team. "Let's move, people. We've got a dreadnought to take down." The strike team boarded a heavily armed assault craft, its hull painted with the scars of countless battles. They rocketed away from the Vindicator, weaving through the chaos of the battle as they closed in on the enemy dreadnought. But even as they prepared to breach the dreadnought's hull, Riggs and her team were facing their own challenges. They had discovered a hidden base within the asteroid field, a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers housing a series of ancient alien artifacts. As Riggs and her squad moved deeper into the base, their scanners revealed that the artifacts were the source of the strange energy signature. They pulsed with an eerie red light, their surfaces covered in intricate patterns and glyphs that seemed to writhe and shift before their eyes. "What the hell are these things?" one of the engineers muttered, his voice tinged with equal parts awe and unease. Riggs shook her head, her brow furrowed in concentration as she studied the artifacts. "I don't know, but they're definitely the source of the enemy's power. We need to figure out how they work, and fast." But before they could begin their analysis, a thunderous explosion rocked the base. Alarms blared and lights flickered as Riggs and her team spun to face the new threat. A group of enemy soldiers poured into the chamber, their weapons blazing with searing red energy. At their head was a massive, hulking figure, its body a twisted fusion of flesh and metal. "The Enforcer," Riggs whispered, her eyes widening in recognition. She had heard the stories, tales of a genetically enhanced warrior of unmatched strength and brutality. And now it stood before them, its eyes glowing with malevolent purpose. Riggs and her team fought bravely, their weapons flashing as they danced and dodged around the chamber. But the Enforcer was too strong, too fast. It shrugged off their shots like rain, closing in with terrifying speed. One by one, Riggs' team fell, their bodies broken and bleeding on the cold metal floor. She alone remained, her weapon empty, her back pressed against the thrumming surface of the alien artifacts. The Enforcer loomed over her, its massive fist raised to deliver the final blow. Riggs closed her eyes, bracing herself for the end. But the blow never came. A thunderous crash echoed through the chamber as King and his strike team burst through the wall, their weapons blazing. The Enforcer spun to face them, a roar of rage tearing from its throat. King charged forward, his eyes locked on the Enforcer. They met in a clash of flesh and metal, their movements a blur of speed and power. As they fought, Riggs staggered to her feet, her eyes scanning the chamber. She spotted Hawkins near the artifacts, his face set with grim determination. "Racer," she called out, her voice hoarse with pain and exhaustion. "The artifacts! We have to activate them, use their power against the enemy." Hawkins nodded, his fingers already flying across the artifact's surface as he tried to decipher their secrets. Riggs limped to his side, her own hands joining his in their desperate attempt to unravel the mystery. All the while, King and the Enforcer fought on, their battle a dance of death amidst the chaos. The Enforcer's blows shattered bone and crushed flesh, while King's lightning-fast strikes left trails of blood in their wake. In the heart of the hidden base, the ancient artifacts thrummed with power, their surfaces shimmering with eldritch glyphs. Riggs and Hawkins worked feverishly, their fingers flying across control panels as they pored over the alien technology. "Almost there," Riggs muttered, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Just a few more adjustments." Hawkins glanced over his shoulder, his eyes widening as he saw King locked in a brutal melee with the Enforcer. The two warriors traded blows with lightning speed, their bodies a blur of motion. King ducked under a savage punch from the Enforcer, then retaliated with a devastating uppercut that snapped the alien's head back. The Enforcer staggered, but quickly recovered, its eyes blazing with fury. "Riggs, we need to hurry," Hawkins urged, his voice tight with tension. Riggs nodded, her fingers a blur as she input the final commands. The artifacts flared with brilliant blue light, the intensity growing until it was almost blinding. Suddenly, a shimmering portal burst into existence at the center of the chamber. The air crackled with energy as a colossal spacecraft emerged, its hull gleaming with advanced technology beyond anything the UEDF had ever seen. "Impossible," Hawkins breathed, his eyes wide with awe. "That's the UES Titan. It was lost centuries ago during the Great Galactic War." The Titan hung in the air, dwarfing the surrounding ships. Its weapons systems hummed to life, targeting the enemy fleet with ruthless precision. "Attention all ships," a synthesized voice boomed across the comm channels. "This is the UES Titan, an autonomous vessel programmed to defend humanity at any cost. Engaging hostile forces now." The Titan opened fire, its advanced weaponry tearing through the enemy ships like tissue paper. Explosions lit up the void as the alien vessels crumbled under the onslaught, their hulls shattering into debris. King, seeing his chance, pressed his attack against the Enforcer. He unleashed a flurry of strikes, his fists and feet a blur of motion. The Enforcer reeled under the assault, its defenses crumbling. With a final devastating blow, King sent the Enforcer crashing to the ground, its body broken and still. He stood over his fallen foe, his chest heaving with exertion. "Admiral King," a voice crackled over the comm. It was Admiral Zora. "The enemy fleet is in disarray. Their ships are fleeing the system." King nodded, his eyes hard. "Zora, I propose a temporary truce between our forces. We need to hunt down these ships and find out who's really behind this attack." There was a moment of silence, then Zora's voice returned. "Agreed. My ships will join yours in the pursuit. We cannot allow this enemy to escape." As the UEDF and Arcturian ships broke off in pursuit of the fleeing enemy vessels, Riggs and her team delved deeper into the secrets of the ancient artifacts. "This technology is beyond anything we've ever seen," Riggs said, her voice hushed with wonder. "It's part of something much larger, a network that spans the entire galaxy." Hawkins leaned in, his eyes scanning the data scrolling across the screens. "Wait a minute," he said, his voice growing tight. "Look at this. These artifacts, they're just one piece of the puzzle. There are other factions out there, all vying for control of this technology." Riggs nodded, her face grim. "And whoever's behind this attack, they're just one player in a much larger game. The true mastermind is still out there, pulling the strings." As the revelation sank in, King and his crew raced through the stars, their ships pushing their engines to the limit as they chased down the enemy fleet. The battle may have been won, but the war was far from over. The hunt for the truth had only just begun. As the combined human and Arcturian forces chased down the enemy's fleeing ships, a frantic distress call cut through the comm chatter. Riggs's panicked voice filled the bridge of King's ship. "Admiral, the hidden base is under attack. We're being overrun by a new wave of enemy troops led by someone calling himself the Overlord. We need immediate assistance." King and Zora exchanged a tense glance, the weight of the moment heavy in the air. King's jaw tightened as he turned to the helm. "Set a course for the asteroid field, maximum speed. We're not leaving our people behind." The Vindicator surged forward, the Arcturian ships falling into formation behind it as they raced towards the besieged base. As they approached, the scale of the attack became clear. Enemy ships swarmed the asteroids, disgorging hordes of armored soldiers onto the base's surface. King and Zora led the charge, their ships blasting a path through the enemy lines. They docked with the base, then stormed out with their elite strike teams, weapons blazing. The corridors rang with the thunder of gunfire and the hiss of energy weapons as they fought their way towards Riggs' position. They found her team in the artifact chamber, crouched behind hastily erected barricades as they fought desperately to hold back the enemy tide. King and Zora waded into the fray, their weapons spitting death as they moved to reinforce their beleaguered comrades. Shoulder to shoulder, the two leaders fought, their movements fluid and precise. Where King was a whirlwind of aggression, Zora was a master of precision, each shot finding its mark with lethal accuracy. Despite their differences, they found a rhythm in the heat of battle, a grudging respect forming between them. As the last of the enemy soldiers fell, a slow clap echoed through the chamber. A figure emerged from the shadows, towering and clad in advanced armor, a crackling energy blade in his hand. "Impressive," he said, his voice a metallic rasp, but futile. King's eyes widened in recognition, then narrowed in fury. "Novak," he spat, "I should have known a cockroach like you would find a way to survive." Novak laughed, the sound cold and cruel. "Survive? I have transcended human. The power of the ancients flows through me now. I am the Overlord, and I will be the one to bring this galaxy to its knees." He lunged forward, his energy blade clashing against King's plasma saber in a blinding flare of light. They dueled across the chamber, their weapons moving in a blur of speed and power, each seeking an opening in the other's defenses. Around them, the battle raged on as Zora, Riggs, and the others fought to keep the remaining enemy forces at bay. Explosions rocked the base, alarms blaring as the ancient technology began to destabilize under the strain of the conflict. King, seeing the danger, began to maneuver Novak towards the portal chamber, drawing him away from the others. As they clashed amidst the thrumming artifacts, King's mind raced, desperately seeking a solution. And then it hit him. The only way to stop Novak, to end this threat once and for all, was to overload the artifacts, to destroy the base and the portal in a cataclysmic explosion. But doing so would mean sacrificing himself, trapping himself with Novak in the heart of the blast. He met Zora's eyes across the chamber, a moment of understanding passing between them. She nodded, her expression grim, then began to bark orders, coordinating the evacuation of their forces. King turned back to Novak, a grim smile on his face. "Looks like it's just you and me now, you son of a bitch." He charged forward, their blades locking in a final titanic struggle as the world around them began to tear itself apart. King's free hand flew across the artifact's control panel, initiating the self-destruct sequence. Warning klaxons blared as the evacuation shuttles blasted free of the base, carrying Zora, Riggs, and the others to safety. King watched them go, a sense of peace settling over him. He had done his duty, had given his life to protect those he cared for, to safeguard the future of the galaxy. As the timer ticked down to 0, King locked eyes with Novak, his voice steady and clear. "See you in hell." The world went white, the roar of the explosion drowning out all else as the base and the portal chamber vanished in a blinding flash of light, taking King and Novak with it. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.